Views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this episode are that of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the values of sponsors or other associated organizations. Welcome to the Parental Compass by Family Education and Support Services. I am your host, Bobby Williams. As always, please subscribe to the show. We have a back catalog of so many episodes that are worth a listen. Happy New Year. We are starting the year off right with a special episode regarding discipline. Our guest is friend of the show, Barbara Coloroso. Barbara is an international best-selling author with a ton of incredible books. Her most recent book is an amalgamation of 55 years of work regarding discipline. The book is called Mischief, Mistakes, and Mayhem: Creating a Just and Caring School Environment and Culture. You can find the book on Amazon, and you can also learn more about Barbara's work by going to kidsareworthit.com. This episode's a little longer than our typical ones, but it was such a great conversation, we just let it run. So let's get into it. Check it out.
And so one day I said to him, is there anything I can do for you? And I ended up in Rwanda after the genocide. And I worked with orphans in the genocide. Where in 1994, almost 1 million human beings were macheted to death by neighbors and some relatives, you know. And I had been lecturing on parenting for a long time, wrote the book on bullying, and that whole issue of contempt. And what I saw in my time in Rwanda was all the memorials, the horrific deeds that had happened, the rivers that flowed with bodies and blood. And my publisher, who also published the Bully book, said, as you're talking, why not write a book on genocide and its connection? So I did write the book called Extraordinary Evil. And when I was lecturing on it, I had reporters come up to me and say, but I thought you lectured on parenting and teaching. And I said to them, where do you think all this contempt, the dehumanization of other human beings, the horrific violence against neighbors begins? It starts in our homes, our schools, and our communities. And so that's how that book came about. It was with my work in Rwanda that it clicked. I mean, there were differences between the different groups, but a group rose up who utterly treated the other groups with utter contempt as human beings. I mean, how else can you machete a baby to death? You have to see them, you dehumanize them. And I see that happening so much today in our own world, where people are no longer that I and thou. I'm unique, you're unique, we have a common humanity. And that makes the we. We're interdependent, interrelated, interconnected, as Archbishop Desmond so beautifully said, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And that is severed when anyone, no matter what age, treats another human being as less than human.
I think that really relates a lot to what we're talking about today. And I appreciate the point that working with families and children today, that's what's shaping society in the future. And I guess that may be an obvious point, but it's very true.
Well, we have to rise up against that kind of dehumanization in our homes, our schools, our communities, and publicly. And we have to teach our young children that that other human being has the same dignity and worth as you do. And I talk about the antidotes to those 3 virulent agents ripping apart the fabric of our humanity: hating other human beings with utter contempt, hoarding, that me, mine, and more that we so often see in our culture instead of us, ours, and enough. All I wish for children is they have enough love and caring in their lives, enough access to health care, enough access to food, having communities who care deeply about them. And then the third one is harming through lying and cheating and stealing. And that, in turn, if I lie, it destroys my own personal integrity. But it also destroys my relationship with you because you can't trust me. And that in turn destroys community. And so those are the virulent agents that we're faced with today. And the antidotes for those, we can start with the very youngest of our children, teaching them to care deeply. I tell students, you don't have to like every kid in this class, but you have to honor their humanity. Care deeply, share generously of your gifts, your talents, your resources. Be open-handed and be willing to share those talents that you have. And then help willingly. Get little ones to be helpers at home, and you're developing empathy and compassion and that sense of we are interconnected. And when you do that, the other won't find root in their little beings. We do live in a toxic environment today. Our kids are swimming in it, online and offline. We have to be there as parents and educators to say, this is what we need. And I will walk the talk with you, and I will talk the walk. I will teach you how to do it. But I have to first walk it. Kids have to see me caring and sharing and helping for them to believe it's really worth it for them to do.
Well, you touched on a lot of things that I want to hit in a little more detail throughout this interview. And something that you talk about is the difference between punishment and discipline. What's the distinction there?
And those are, by the way, very critical to helping raise compassionate, deeply caring human beings. Punishment and discipline, we often use the words interchangeably, and they are not. Punishment's adult-oriented. It's imposed from without. It arouses resentment in the children who are being punished. And it's something we do to a child, not with them. Discipline, on the other hand, if you go back to its Latin roots, to discipline with authority means to give life to a child's learning. Whether they're making a mistake or creating mischief or causing mayhem, they need to know that we're there to help them through this and hold them accountable for what they've done. And there is an alter ego to punishment, and that's rescuing. Some parents, my dear friend years ago had coined the term, Jim Fay, with Love and Logic, the helicopter parent, where we hover over the children, and if they make a mistake, well, it's somebody else's fault, or I'm here to help you fix it. Don't worry, sweetheart, it's not your fault. Or when they create mischief, oh, he didn't really mean it. Or when they create mayhem, well, it's somebody else's fault. Or, well, you can't be harsh with him. Because they're looking at punishment as the only two things, rescue or punish. Discipline is not a middle road where you grab a little bit from both. It's way above both of those. It shows kids what they've done wrong, gives them ownership of the problem to the best of their ability, gives them ways to solve it, and most importantly, it does something punishment and rescuing will not do. It leaves a child's dignity intact. They learn to own their mistakes. They learn to own the mischief they created. They learn to own any mayhem they may have caused, and that they truly recognize that there are people here to help you through this. However, you have to get through it.
So I understand helicopter parenting. They don't have accountability for their actions, and that's obviously bad. And then on the punishment side, it's almost like you're using fear as a tactic. And what's the problem with that? What's the long-term consequence of using fear as a way to control your children?
Well, punishment actually will produce either fear of the parent, fear of making a mistake, fear of going out into the world because somebody may punish them. They may fight back and just do quite the opposite of what their parents told them to do, not ask, but told them to do, or they live in fear. And so you don't want the flight or the fright or the fear. What you want kids to do is take ownership for what they've done and know they will not be punished for it. I remember a young child who was told not to go out in the street, and Mama whopped him on the butt really hard. The next time he ran out in the street, he covered his little bum.
Mm-hmm.
He had not learned don't run out in the street, but cover your bum if you're going to run out in the street. The lesson was avoid the punishment, whether it means lying or pretending or blaming it on somebody else. If children know they will not be punished, nor will they be rescued, but they'll be truly disciplined, it helps them develop a sense of inner discipline. So when they leave our homes and our schools, they're making all of their own decisions and responsible for all of their own behavior, not saying things like, well, he made me do it, or it's not my fault, that person pulled in front of me.
So there's the intent piece of this too, though. So you say
Yes.
mistakes, mischief, and mayhem. How do you distinguish the three?
Okay, mistakes are inadvertent things that are done. Let's say a five-year-old is carrying a glass because they want a glass because that baby is using a bottle. I don't want to be like my baby brother or sister. So they have this glass and they're walking on, it drops on the floor. That's a mistake. 16-year-old accidentally backs the car into a post that he couldn't see. Now with the backup cameras, that's almost impossible, but he didn't see it. That's a mistake. Mischief is a child who decides to write tic-tac-toe on the dining room table. That's not a mistake. Oh, he meant to do it. There was intention to do that. And then another child decides to carve a name and a gross term into that dining room table. That's mayhem. A child who's scribbling, the little kid who broke the glass, also scribbles on paper and accidentally goes on the table with a marker. That's a mistake. There's no intention. Mischief, they're looking for a little bit of excitement and annoy somebody or get a laugh from somebody. But the intent was putting that tic-tac-toe on the table. That mistake with the mark is truly a mistake. However, if you look at the way some people treat kids who have been deemed to be good kids, never doing anything wrong because they've never been caught or they've had excuses made for them, are very often the ones when they do a malicious deed. They bullied some, oh, he didn't mean it. He didn't know that kid was too weak to be called a gross name. You go, wait a minute, why even bother to call him a gross name? Mm-hmm. It's your problem and you have to deal with it. All bullying is mayhem, but not all mayhem is bullying. You can have vandalism. You can have a one-on-one fight that got ugly. So it's important that we be able to discern that as parents and as educators. That 3-year-old or 5-year-old who drops the glass. You want to know how you can deal with it. Now I'll show you those 3 different families, how they deal with it.
Yes, so that was going to be my question. Like mischief or, a mistake, you're going to treat different than mischief. And
absolutely.
So how do you deal with each of these to meet their intentions here and get a solution?
Well, first of all, you have to recognize what it is. And then you look at a very simple formula. It's simple, but it's not easy when you're in the midst of it. That 5-year-old drops the glass. The brick wall, you klutzy kid, I swear you're going to use plastic the next 30 years of your life. Get out of this kitchen right now. Sometimes they'll get a whop for it. Physical punishment and shunning and rumor and excluding kids or putting them up in their room, that's all a form of punishment. And what happens to those kids when the brick wall parent punishes them is they're afraid to make a mistake, or they'll hide their mistake or try to find somebody to blame. The jellyfish parent, oh, sweetheart, what was I thinking giving you a slippery glass? Oh, it was my fault. Come on over here and have some chocolate milk while I clean that up. Which says to the child, when you make a mistake, it's not your fault. And then I get your kid in school and he says, Wasn't my fault. Worksheet wasn't dark enough. Teacher didn't give me enough time. The kid behind me was bugging me. Or the classic, he hit me back first. So backbone parent looks at that little one, or the 15-year-old or the 16-year-old who backed into a post, or the 15-year-old who dropped a beaker in lab class with caustic material, and says, whoa, you made a mistake. Now, the little one who dropped the glass can't not pick up the glass shards. But go get me a bag. You give the child part of the responsibility to help fix it. So you pick up the glass, they help mop the floor after they brought that bag to you. And you say, think of what you can do to keep that from happening again. So what's the formula? Own it, fix it, learn from it, move on. That's what you do with mistakes, is you own it. It's nobody else's fault. It happened. You didn't do it deliberately. Own it, fix it the best you can with often help from an adult. Like with the 16-year-old, how do you call the insurance company? Is it better to try to get it fixed yourself? Or what can you do about the post you couldn't see? That kind of thing. But you own it, fix it, learn from it. Okay? Do I need a glass that has 2 handles, like a mug? Or do I best stick to something that's not glass? Or do I have a thicker glass that I can hold? Giving them options. I think that's our job as adults, is to help them. I give them options, not a solution. Well, here, take this cup because you can't hold the other one. It's broken. You say, here's some ones you can use. And then move on.
Why are options important then? Why not just, here's what you do? What's the point of giving them the options?
They need to know that they have agency in their life, that they can make decisions. And if you give them options, then they can choose from those. And what you'll often find with kids at 5, 6, and 7 is they'll come up with other options once they realize they're not going to be punished. There's options here and ways to fix it. And then knowing you're not going to remind them every time they pick up a glass. Don't drop it like you dropped the other. Now, no nagging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're empowered. So what about mischief then? How is that different, or how do you deal with that?
Oh, I'll give you an example of my own child, who's now a grown adult. But he broke a beaver bait jar at the Natural History Museum. Could have been worse, just like that little child broke a glass. However, it was not a mistake.
So what kind of jar is that?
A beaver bait jar. It had beaver bait in it.
Okay.
And he was at the Natural History Museum. He and his little buddy were swinging their backpacks, which you're not supposed to be doing. His buddy hit him. They both laughed. The other woman's talking about dinosaur legs down the way. And he took his backpack and swung it. His strap stretched out. The other boy ducked. Right behind him was a beaver bait jar. Now, for those who don't know, beaver bait is female beaver urine. He'll never break another beaver bait jar because his teacher very wisely handled that. She said, you have a serious problem, not a mistake. You have a problem. I know you can handle it. He had to write a letter to the Natural History Museum. He had to replace the beaver bait jar with the game warden. He had to figure out how he was going to handle the next field trip with his hands, his feet, his backpack, his mouth. And so often when you're punished, you never get to go on another field trip. When you're rescued, oh, you didn't mean to do it. But holding him accountable was what needed to happen. So what happens when it's mischief? Don't make excuses for the child, and certainly don't punish them for it. It does no good. You have shown what they've done wrong. He broke the beaver bait jar. Give him ways to solve it. He and the game warden showed him how to collect beaver bait, female urine, female beaver urine. He'll never break it again because he knows how difficult that is and awful it is to replace that. You give them ways to solve it, show them what they've done wrong, give them ways to solve it, leave their dignity intact.
That sounds like a lifetime memory too of just all that happened.
Yeah. But if you can look at it, and the reason I showed you the little 5-year-old and then a young kid in 3rd grade is mischief can happen from about 4 years old on up. So you want to be watching for mischief and not thinking, oh, he didn't mean it. When it obviously, he grabs his younger brother's toy with a smile on his face is not a mistake. The intent matters. The child didn't intend to drop the glass. Joey didn't intend to break the beaver bait jar, but he was doing things that he wasn't supposed to be doing that caused it. So he is responsible for that. And that's the mischief, the intentional doing something you're not supposed to be doing that can cause harm to another person and the like, or property, but is fixable.
And then we get into the mayhem side. So this is pure maliciousness, I guess.
Yes.
So what is the distinction there as far as how you deal with it?
Okay. You have two kids fighting over a TV program. That's conflict. That's normal, natural, and necessary. We have a job as wise and caring parents to teach them to handle their conflicts nonviolently. First, by modeling it ourselves, and secondly, by helping them, giving them tools to handle their conflict. However, you walk in and you hear your little one screaming at the top of his lungs. And as you walk in, you see the 10-year-old has the 5-year-old's arm up the back. It's not a yoga pose. He's in pain. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. But as soon as your daughter sees you, she drops her brother's arm and starts to comfort him. She knows what she has done, and she doesn't want to get caught being mean. But step back a moment. And what we typically do is we say, what are you screaming like that for? Because she's already dropped his arm and is trying to comfort him. But step back a moment. When you walked in, you saw something you wish you hadn't seen. You saw your daughter smiling at the pain she was inflicting on her brother. That's mean and cruel and has to be addressed. So what do you do with that? You could punish her, or you could say, oh, she didn't really mean it. You know, she would never do that to her younger brother. She just did it. And more importantly, she had a smile on her face. It's called a smirk. And you'll know the difference then. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't be smiling doing that. She'd be smirking. What she might smile if the brother fell down, she picked him up and he hugged her. Then it would be a pleasant smile. He fell on his own accord. She cared for him, picked him up. Big difference than the smirk. And what you say to the child who just harmed a younger brother or sister, that was mean, not you're mean. We identify the behavior. That was mean, and that was cruel. And I think the older they get, you can use that word cruel. That was mean, that was cruel. Your brother was hurt. And you need to take some time to figure out how you're going to fix the harm you just caused. And that might be a time where you say, okay, you need to take some time in your room, in the rocker here. Younger ones, they say on my lap. You say, I'm going to put a kid who just did that to her brother on my lap. Yeah, sometimes what a kid needs to get their act together again is to be calmed down. Then they may come back very quickly and say, I'm sorry. And I say, you've got a job to do before the I'm sorry. It's 3 R's. Restitution. Own and fix what you did. I yanked my brother's arm and hurt him. Figure out how you're going to keep it from happening again. And they often say, well, I won't ever do that again. Well, that's good. That's what you won't do. I want you to tell me what you will do. And this is where options come in again. And I said, I don't know. Well, one of the things you could do is figure out what on earth you thought holding your brother's arm up would do. Would he like it? Would he not like it? Having him explore the intent of what she did. But Mom, he always gets what he wants. Okay, I say, talk to me about that. Tell me about it. Not that's not true. But talk to me about it. Tell me about it. And you might find out that because the younger one may have some issues, difficulties in relating to other people, or maybe special needs, and she's feeling like, I don't get any attention, so she uses mean and cruel to get it. You want to get at that. But restitution, resolution, figure out how you're going to keep it from happening again. Let's say she grabbed her brother's toy and threw it across the room and broke it. as she was smiling instead of the arm up the back. But she had that smirk on her face. Well, she has to either fix that toy or buy him a new one from her little savings account in the bag. So, and the last is to heal with the brother. And that may mean he doesn't want to see her for the rest of the day in his little space. And that's fair. You have to give him some agency too, that he can say, and not in a mean way, but I just don't want her to be here while I'm playing with my toys. And that's fair. And she has to take that. And or she might say, I'll share my toys with them. So this is a dialogue, and what it does is give life to both of their learning. And you honored the fact that that little one was hurt. You also honor the fact that this little girl cannot use this behavior in a healthy way. She continues to do that, she'll grow meaner and crueler. You got to stop it in its tracks.
It seems like in school, bullying, I mean, that's a huge topic, and I'm sure we could get into a lot about it. But
30-hour lecture, yeah.
But it always, not always, but it often can be like we need some kind of dialogue where the bully and the bullied can come to a compromise and everyone's on equal footing, where it's like, no, the dynamic is not that. This kid is the bully. This kid is being bullied. There's no compromise there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's when we fail as educators and parents to discern the difference between conflict, normal, natural conflict, and mean and cruel. One kid attacked the other kid and harmed them. In school, it's one kid and often they're not so innocent bystanders who feed into that, laugh and enjoy, which really harms the targeted kid. And we need to call it for what it is. We can look at a situation in the world right now that kind of makes me crazy sometimes when we talk about rivalries or conflict. When I was in Rwanda, after the genocide, while it was happening actually, we even labeled it in our country as ethnic rivalry. No, one group attacked an entire other group and anyone who stood with them, including some Hutus. But it was the genocidaires who attacked. Now we can look today when Russia attacked a sovereign democracy. That is not something you sit down and resolve together. The attacker has to be held accountable for what they've done. And restitution. How do you repair the harm? You can't get those people you've killed back. But how do you repair the harm that was done? How do you return the children that were stolen? How do you fix the infrastructure that was destroyed? That needs to be required. What we're looking at when you try to make a peace deal with somebody who's been attacked and the attacker is the attacker tends to win. And so let's go to a home scene with that. If we would say, now let's be nice with one another. Let's work this out. How do you work out your arm being wrenched up? It's been hurt. That's where the 3 R's, restitution, resolution, and reconciliation or restoration has to occur. If it's a conflict, reconciliation can work. You can work that out and you can come together. However, if it's an attack, it's restoration, trying to restore what has been rent, has been torn apart. And that very first one, the very first point in mayhem, just as in mischief, is to hold the person accountable for what they've done.
We'll have to get together again sometime soon and dive more into bullying and revisit that.
Be happy to.
If there was one just mind shift you could leave parents with, what would you hope that they take away or start thinking about a little differently?
That our children matter, that they have agency in their life. They're fully capable of learning from us. And when they make mistakes, that they can work through that, own it, fix it, learn from it, move on. When they create mischief, and children will, show them what they've done wrong, give them ownership, give them ways to solve it, and most importantly, leave their dignity intact. And if they do create mayhem, that's when you need to be there for them to say, I'm here. When they get in trouble, like end up in the local jail, you don't rescue them, you don't punish them, you get down there as fast as you can, you say, I'm here for you, and I know you can handle it. And here is a list of lawyers that you might want to start calling. Again, in each one of these situations, mistake, mischief, and mayhem, children need to know, I matter. I have agency. I can fix things. So just those three things, and knowing that formulas are simple, but they're not easy to follow through. The first is to look at that child as a beautiful, wonderful human being who's fully capable of any of those three. And that when they do it, they're not beyond repair. They're not needing to be punished. They need to be able to be disciplined, shown what they've done wrong, given ownership, give ways to solve it, and leave their dignity intact.
Well, Barbara, I'm wishing you luck on the Barbara Coloroso World Tour here, where you got all these speaking engagements. And thank you for taking the time to talk with us before you head out.
Hey, Bobby, it's always a joy. I'll come back anytime. Just give me a call.
Thank you so much, Barbara Coloroso. Every, year and a half, 2 years, we have Barbara on the show, and it's always just fun to hear what she has to say and what she's teaching the world about these days. You can learn more about Barbara's work again by going to kidsareworthit.com. You can check out her latest book in paperback, Mischief, Mistakes, and Mayhem, Creating a Just and Caring School Environment and Culture. It's not just about creating an environment at school. All these ideas can be applied to home and how you're raising your children. Thank you so much for listening, y'all. I'm Bobby Williams, representing Family Education and Support Services. We'll see you next episode. Happy New Year. Peace.